being in a fight, in a 5-round fight or a 3-round fight, right?
1 minute is
1 minute is a eternity. 30 seconds. I mean,
1/5 of one round.
My goodness.
1/15 of the average fight. And you could be doing that for 5 minutes straight. And if you don't have that recovery in 1 minute, you go into round 2 and you're like, oh, I'm toast.
You're already defeated psychologically.
And so we've seen that with certain fighters, like they can't recover in the 1 minute. So their heart rate is high at the end of round 1, maybe end of round 2, and they can't get their heart rate down in the 1 minute. So they go back out to the next round already still pretty tired.
Yeah.
And so that 1 minute recovery window is something that we look at, and you want to be able to train your heart rate recovery to come down. You want to practice that.
Let's go more into that, because for just the average hobbyist, right? I'll spar a little bit in like Muay Thai and then even in Jiu-Jitsu. And I know how valuable that 1 minute, I try to prolong it actually. You know what I mean? I try to cheat myself. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So I'm telling the guys, I'm like, hold on, give me 1 second. Let's take 15 more seconds. Because it's like I'm trying to recover. Can you get more in depth with that? Because I think that's what a lot of fighters and even just regular practitioners that are thinking in between those 1 minute, 5 minute jiu-jitsu sessions where they're having the rounds, they're like, how can I maximize this break in order for me to go again like I did the first round?
A couple pieces to that. In training, you can train that recovery by actually like spike your heart rate and then take a break. I know a lot of guys. I know a guy that I'm working with right now who's got a fight coming up. He would just train as long and hard as he could. He would do a let's just say 5-minute circuits and do burpees and push-ups and sit-ups. And in this 5 minutes, just absolutely spike his heart rate. And then in the 1 minute recovery would do more sit-ups and push-ups and other things. So his heart rate never actually came down. And so for this 25 minutes, he's just peaked and spiked. And his heart rate was just consistent all the way across the 25 minutes. There was never a spike and a recovery, a spike and a recovery. And so what we did to adjust his training was we actually did it in 30-second intervals. Was a huge 30 seconds, go as hard as you can, rest for 30. Do that for 5 minutes. And so now we're training and then take a 3-minute rest break after the 5 to get your body used to recovering and used to basically uptaking oxygen, utilizing your lung capacity to deliver oxygen to the muscles so that you have energy to work. So the training aspect of it is actually take a break, actually rest. And so spike, rest, spike, rest, spike, rest. Instead of more guys is like, I think a lot of guys would say the longer I can go, the harder I can go, the better. Where that's not actually true because you're never exposing your heart to a recovery system.
Do you think psychology to that though is that now they're not even thinking about like their systems. They're thinking about just breaking the other guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably.
It's kind of like, they forget about all that. Be like, look, I'm going to outlast this guy till I smell blood in the water and then I'm just going to take him out.
And that's definitely true. And you can gain a good level of endurance to do that. But how much better could your endurance be if your body was good at bringing your heart rate back down in between the round? And so that you started that round with a bigger gas tank, so to speak. You're not already just pinned and revved your engine all the way. And so the training aspect is train hard, take a break, train hard, take a break, and work that. And then in that round, if you haven't trained it, breathing, like a breathing strategy helps. And so breathing it's a whole level of science and it's insane. And it's this really low hanging fruit because everyone breathes every day. And so you don't really think about using it as a training tool. And so at the PI with the strength staff, we meet every week and we go over like new strategies and make sure we're up to date on like all the current training strategies that matter, that are impactful. And so one of these, we talked about breathing. And so we have something called power breathing where in between rounds, it's a very like rapid inhale and a rapid exhale. So it's and essentially what that violent inhale and violent exhale is doing is creating a pressure system inside the body. And forget if I have this backwards, but pressure goes from high pressure to low pressure. And so when you create this drastic change of pressure, you're actually creating an environment that oxygen wants to get into. And so you can breathe hard in, hard out, get a few of these like dump breaths, call them power breathing dump breaths, and you can kind of maximize the oxygen uptake in that 1 minute.
Yeah.
So breathing strategies like that can really help your 1 minute recovery by getting more oxygen in. More oxygen in the lungs will create more oxygen in your bloodstream, which will deliver oxygen to the muscles that need it for work.
That's actually what I was gonna ask. What's that? So, are you doing this during the break, or are you doing this during the fight, or like jujitsu rolls, like the hard breathe?
Probably during the break. I mean, if you can squeeze them in during a round when you're like hard and actively working, even just a few of them, you'll kind of feel a little better. You can kind of trick your body into you're maximizing the oxygen uptake. If you're already out of breath, you might not have the ability to do it because you're just panting and sucking for air. But if you have that gap and you can get a few of those dump breaths in, I think it would be pretty helpful.
So let's go back to like, say for your average like jiu-jitsu guy, right? If he was rolling for about 5 to say at 8 minute round, can you take us through about like how he would control his breathing patterns to maximize that round? So what, like you said, spike up, spike down, right? Pretty much. For like 30 seconds, is it?
In the round or?
Yeah, in the round, yeah.
Are you talking training or are you talking like mid-round recovery without training?
Trading.
Okay, so we're training.
Yeah, we're training. Like during the round. Yeah. Like, well, I guess, how would you optimize like your cardio through breathing while you're going through like a 5-minute jiu-jitsu round? Or even or a sparring round, let's say.
I think the biggest thing I can think of on that, if you're like in practice, because jiu-jitsu it's a skill practice, right? So it's training, but you're training the skill of jiu-jitsu. So you can train like, let's say it's a non-technical training where you're doing like sandbag work or kettlebell work, and you can use breathing practices and spiking the heart rate and recovering in like that non-technical session. That'll help your technical session. But if you're in the middle of a roll and you're like, hey, I'm training jiu-jitsu, how can I train my breathing to be better? One thing to think about is where your breath is going and how efficient is your breathing. And so one thing that we see a lot is a lot of like chest breathing. So it's really high and the air doesn't get to the diaphragm or like to the deeper levels of your stomach, diaphragm, trunk cavity. And so call them like chest breathing versus diaphragmatic breathing.
Yeah.
And that chest breath is less efficient than like a diaphragmatic breath. I'm getting less total volume of air into my stomach. And so if I'm up here, those breaths are very effective. And so in the round, I want to try and be thinking about, and it's tough when you got a guy on your stomach.
Yes.
Or at that opportunity, maybe you shift and the guy's on your chest and your stomach's open. And now I can breathe into my belly. So I'm able to take a higher volume of air, which my body will use to deliver to the working muscles more effectively. So it's being more efficient in your breathing mechanics.
With the diaphragm breathing, what I'm getting from you is that's obviously very, very important.
Yeah.
What's the technique to that?
Couple different techniques.
Because I don't think people know the difference.
Yeah.
Right?
So one thing we'll do to train it is like you can lay on your back and put your hands on your belly button. Sometimes like a really small weight. And when you're breathing, you're thinking about lifting your hands or lifting the weight so that you can actually kind of see the diaphragm expand. It's easy when you're laying on your back and you can watch the weight rise, but you're trying to think of a deeper breath that goes lower and you're kind of belly breathing is like the common term for it.
Belly breathing, yep.
If you're into yoga, you probably heard belly breathing before, but belly breathing is that deeper lung volume. And so if it's chest, and you can see the chest and shoulders rise, but if it's belly breathing, you can
interesting.
You see the air go deeper, and then if you can add a layer, you do the belly breath and then the chest breath, you go, and I can almost double the effective air that I'm getting.
So that's the most optimal way of breathing, through your diaphragm and then the chest and then going on.
Yeah, at least down to the diaphragm, you're just getting a higher lung volume. So if you have more air, the respiratory rate can decrease. I'm not if I'm
interesting.
And I can get more air per breath, so I don't need as many breaths.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I ask, with like the BJJ stuff, and it's a good way to like segue into it, because now with the UFC BJJ, and obviously I've seen you train Andrew at the PI.
Tackett,
Andrew Tackett, shout out to he's coming on Sunday. What kind of like training particularly are you now getting into specifics, since he is the welterweight champion now, and what kind of techniques, without giving too much away, I guess,
no, totally,
for Andrew's matches, but then what kind of, particularly in his, obviously, jiu-jitsu field. What are you doing different? Yep.
So the cool part about the PI is how many different departments we have and the information that we can get from each department. So our physical therapy team can essentially help us determine breathing mechanics for somebody, whether or not they are efficient or inefficient. Are they a chest breather or a belly breather? And so once someone's been kind of determined, then we can basically work with them on their breathing strategy. So maybe in between exercises, in between sets, we could say, hey, or give me like 5 belly breaths, or give me this type of breathing. I want this power breathing or something like that. And so with the PI, it's cool because every athlete gets that individual sniper type effect. There's not one person, just because it's Andrew Tackett, who's the BJJ champ, is getting a different level of training than I'm giving the guy who just won his Contender Series fight. Like they're getting the same level of training.